Hey, everybody. This is Tao Griffin. How's everybody's evening, afternoon, morning, and whatever part of the universe and planet you're on? And disclaimer is as that we do acknowledge the person, their religion, their sexuality, and their practices are left out due to conflicts that may occur. We will recognize you as a person and your views and thought. And there is no disclaimer. This is not connected with any organization, church, or practice. These are merely views from my studies and people that and the input that people may have. So, with that being said, I was having a discussion with my student, and something that she had brought up, which was really a very interesting thing, is the Tao, which is the energy of the universe, our character and our morals, and the input that we put in on that. Now, with this, with this, let's think back and let's look at how our character is inside of us, within us, and that we as people are brought up in a certain way, our certain standards that we hold ourselves to, and our outer and our beliefs and what we hold ourselves to. Okay, so we hold ourselves to a certain standards from our upbringing and what we're taught as we're growing up, and by influences, role models, people that we look up to, and their ideas. So we hold ourselves to these standards, and that the Tao, as I mentioned, is the energy that the universe has. And there are different aspects, different beliefs in this. Some are fly by night, some are very valid. In the Japanese culture, that they have their views on the Tao as our as the energy that we thrive from and emit and connects everything. Some people call that the word of God. Some people call that the force. Some people who are universalist, and hopefully I'm right here or close to right here, is that they believe that maybe this is possibly the manifestations that one might work for and believe in and bring up. Somebody chime in and correct me if I'm wrong on that. So, with that being said, now each of us goes by day to day, and we live by our certain morals, our right and our wrongs, and we try to uphold ourselves to that. And in this, maybe some people don't agree. Some people see us maybe as being too much of a jerk or being too strict or rigid. Okay. So, as I was saying, we like to hold ourselves to a standard, and people will see us by how they want to. And that's a given. Everybody has their views on us. Everybody has what they think our standard should be. Well, in that aspect, we have to ask ourselves, what standards do I hold myself to? what morals of right and wrong do I live by? Because each of us, in a way, if we're a good, solid individual, has some type of moral code, and that if anybody knows algebra per se, that there is this number called the number to the power of 3, an arbitrary number. All right. And so from there, anything we do will affect that one plus whatever that number multiplies by, whether we intend to or not. And so from there, that is in a way the energy that is put out, the energy that we are holding ourselves, that we influence. And so from there, we have to ask ourselves, am I doing the right thing here? Am I actually sending out what I should be? Am I sending out and doing what I stand by? Do I represent this? Am I representing myself well? Because when we think about it, people we meet, places we go, influences that we might have is a job interview. And are we upholding what we've been taught and raised by? Provided you were raised in a great and raised right, you were raised in a good household. So with those things that can cause one down the road to either act correctly or not. So let's step back. And the word that got brought up is dichotomy. And that one we had to look up. Like, what does this mean? Well, the dichotomy is the opposite of each other or a non-related thing to whatever's going on. So that brings up a different perspective. So let's step back and let's look at our morals. How might they influence the Tao and this concept? How might they put down the road what might get back or what we might put out that might affect somebody else? Are our actions really that which we stand for? So, with that, there were some comments that came up. Julie, if you could read some of those comments.
Someone said, our inner character, the bedrock of our being, profoundly influences the actions we take and the decisions we make. It is the guiding light that illuminates our path through life's complexities. When we cultivate qualities such as compassion, wisdom, and integrity, these traits become the compass that steers our interactions and choices, ensuring we navigate life with a sense of purpose and alignment with our values. As Jedi, we understand that inner peace and clarity are not just personal virtues, but also powerful tools for engaging with the world. They allow us to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and understanding. The principles and moral aspects of character, such as honesty, humility, and service, are deeply rooted in our understanding of the Jedi Path. This path emphasizes personal growth and pursuit of knowledge and the embodiment of virtues that shape our ethical framework. By adhering to these principles, we can not only strive for personal excellence, but also aim to contribute positively to the broader community, fostering harmony and balance in our interactions. In essence, encourage us to be mindful of our inner character, ensuring that our outer actions reflect the ideals we hold dear. This alignment between inner and outer worlds is crucial in authentically in making a meaningful impact in our lives. And that was
Wow.
a quote. Yeah,
Wow.
that one I was like, whoa.
Basically, are we holding ourselves to what we hold close as what we represent? And that goes back to what I was saying is, are we acting in what we ourselves represent, that inner character? So now we have a guest on here. We have two, actually. This is a stellar day here. So, okay. Anyway,
Well,
so what's your take on this, man?
mine, okay. No, from my perspective and my belief is that we were given all knowledge at the point of birth. And what we need is all there. All we need to do is access it through, as I believe you said, moral actions, moral thought, it's should I say, think yourself into right actions, or no, act yourself into right thinking.
Okay.
But do the right thing, and then it starts to kind of multiply itself. If that
Okay,
makes
so
sense.
right. So how would our character, our inner character, come into that? So what is your character, one's character in this?
There is the inner spirit. Okay, I can say this. The inner spirit that we all have, that it lets us know what we're doing and what we need to be doing. It lets us know, hey, you're doing this, but you should be doing this. So it's kind of the gut instinct type thing,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, but let's look at our character as a person, how we react, how we portray ourselves, okay, how we respond,
Okay.
how we carry ourselves. So with our moral compass, we hope that what we're portraying is a good representation, right?
That's the hope.
Okay. So in that, we would like to think that we are portraying our character in a good light in our presentation of ourselves, how we represent ourselves, right?
May I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that I've got more of a clarification, I was trying to put it all together. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
how we feel and act and represent ourselves is a I'm going to use a word here that there are a few that know it. Okay,
All right.
all right. It's we have two sides. We have the human good side, and then we have the Yetzer Hara, the evil side, the animal side, and it would depend upon the individual on which one do to they want to show and be, and not just put on a performance like a peacock.
Okay. But that's a different topic of our inner dark and light sides and our portrayal of that in our actions and thought.
Okay,
Okay.
but however, that the how we want to present ourselves is also my thinking. My thought is that it's it's all part of the same. We want to be a good person and do the right thing and not make ourselves look like uh, someone that is uneducated.
Okay. Well, but that would mean that if we try to represent our morals and we are uneducated, we go in ignorant to a situation.
Okay.
Wouldn't that, if we are not true to those morals and our character, wouldn't that representation of ourselves also be diluted?
If you would rephrase the question.
Okay. We represent ourselves in every day, right? Whenever we meet somebody, whenever we're around a group of people and we're new to that group, our dichotomy, whether it be with or against the beliefs that that group holds, or has nothing totally related to them.
Okay. Okay.
So, how would our character affect our interaction
Okay.
and the effects we have down the road, and how they remember us, and how they might tell somebody else we are?
Whoa. Okay. You know, part of it, you know, part of it is just common sense on how to act around people.
Okay. So what
Um,
if a person that's from a different country shows up and their culture would be different than ours?
okay.
How would our character reflect the reception of that person? Okay. So in this in this, how do we represent this?
May I
You
say
know,
something?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, from what was stated earlier, I heard it mentioned like this light and dark aspect of the self or
Yeah.
something, and then like this thing, and the topic's on character, and I'm going, doesn't that sort of play a part in how we weigh things out and how we use that inner part, the inner part of our character, and how we interact with the outer.
Yeah. Because if one is of ill moral thought and action, and their character might portray that dichotomy, that word that was used, might be abrasive. That goes against what that immediate culture may be, or that inner dynamics in that social circle, right? So, say a person from Germany, their culture may be very outgoing and very liberal in what they say, but yet, and that be okay. In Germany, I'm just using this as an example, that what might be okay there, and their character be totally fine, but that inner and outer, that inner aspects, and how they might perceive, might cause that person to change what their character may be at the time. And they, just by accident or indirectly, become offended. And so they might become less amiable and show a disrespect, just simply because somebody might have been ignorant. So let's think about the dynamics on that one. Okay. So with that, we would have to consider what that person's culture may have, and how they were brought up. So what we're looking at there is that aspect also, one's culture.
Someone else said, what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit.
But habits can be changed, provided they're brought to our attention, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so wouldn't that mean that if a person's using it as a habit, I wish they'd elaborated a little bit more on that, on the habit, or what the habits might be.
I think it was a perspective on character. So if our character is what we repetitively do, excellence, then excellent then is not a act but a habit.
Oh, okay, I see what they're saying there. If we are repeated in how we represent ourselves, that would be that they are representing their moral character within themselves outwardly, if I'm understanding that right.
I think that's what was meant.
Okay, I'm going to assume that's what this person was meaning.
Yeah.
That's a good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There was one other comment.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay,
I
good.
believe
Thank
the
you.
axiom is above as so below. If our perceptions determine our reality, then the inner world, then it'll be a reflection of how we view the outer world. And retrospectively, our outer environment will be a reflection of our inner environment. If you can change one of these aspects, then the others will fall into line. So when we rid ourselves of the control of ego, we can be the determining awareness behind the way we view our attachments and aversions. If we go into the outer worlds, so many people will be a reflection of their inner world. So I can make the outer world part of my inner world by heating the, I don't know what that says.
Okay, yes, that is the okay. Anyway, I'm gonna see that statement as a two-part question. Okay, that's just me. That's just my perspective. Okay, because it went in to me. It went into two different things. I would say that the projecting or what we see in the outer world is from what is going on inside. And I'm just kind of paraphrasing here. Okay. That if we live by what we think is going on, then that's how we're going to live. That's an individual basis, not a social standard, but a social basis. To act a certain way, we need to know how to act a certain way from the people that are around us, that we encompass in our inner circle per se. Okay, uh, that's the best I can put it.
So what I'm hearing there is that we're letting our character be dictated by those around us. And if our morals are of good standard and good standing and a good foundation, then we are no longer in control of ourselves. We are letting everybody say how we should be, right? So in that, we want to, when we represent ourselves, we also represent where we stand. We also want to represent that aspect of ourselves that if we're good, we're going to project that. If we're not, then that's going to be picked up on. And that those around us, they can influence how we are. Those that influence in our lives that I was talking about. The people that we follow, the people that we look up to. And that if we see those people as a guide, then those people are going to influence, and fundamentally, we're going to change our character away from that darker, from that lighter to that darker side, if their influences upon us are not in our best interest. And it could be where we live. It could be what, we're trying to impress some people. But with that, if we're trying to impress some people, wouldn't that put us in a bad light also? So this is where I would think that our moral code of our character would hold firm. Because if we go in thinking one way and holding to that, then that dichotomy is going to be completely opposite of what might cause us to be included. It might exclude us simply because we're withholding and upholding that moral standard. So we have to think to ourselves, is this really where I want to be? Is this who I really want to be about? Is this who I really want to be around? Because if they do not hold our best interest in mind, then if we are not secure in those morals, then what business do we have being there? Because that lesser self will invariably and inevitably take over our own character. So this is where we have to look at, what am I surrounding myself with? What am I trying to gain here? How is this going to nourish from the Tao my growth? How is this going to affect those and what's around me as a person, and those people that I might affect, I might influence? So let's look at what, if our environment is something that is not, say, the best, then that is where we have to fall upon our own self-sufficiency in this, right? Because if we're allowing somebody else to influence and dictate, then are we really an individual of our own morals and character? All we're doing is trying to look good in the face so we don't have to lose out of people we might want to further be around. Maybe we're lonely and we just want to be around people. But when we do that, aren't we compromising that character and our morals that are within us? Because they're dictating how we act. So I pose that question to people. If you're within a group of people, are you truly in for your best interest? And are they in it for your best interest? That's a question I think people need to ask themselves more often. Because today, people are influenced by everything around us. And so with that, we have to ask, am I holding myself to my own standards? Am I holding myself to my own character? Am I true to myself?
Hey, Tao, I think someone would like to speak.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead. Mozoki?
Okay, yeah, okay, yes, Marzoki here. You know, Tao, you said a lot. Okay, you did. You said a lot. Um, and you brought up something that is important. Are we going to act a certain way due to the people that we hang around with? And is that going to become our morals? Well, the definition of moral is truth. What is the truth of this or that? The truth of something. It isn't an opinion, it is the actual facts of. Okay, that a person, a person's truths or morals or aspects of life is dependent upon their surroundings at times, or is it just what they have learned growing up? It's not a definite, but yes, a person can change their action towards people and in society depending upon if they are in a right group of people. As you had mentioned, Tao, you mentioned is that it depends if they are also in a area of a right group of people. Being involved in a right group of people can largely influence how we will act internally and externally as an individual. If we hang around people that read Plato on a regular basis, they're going to think to put ourselves in a situation of, hey, I'm hanging out with these people that are older than I am, and they're they're saying things that I'm not accustomed to saying, but it's like, wait a minute, they're saying something that I need to hear. Okay, and if I may, okay, is that the term respect your elders. Okay, where I live, that I have a lot of older individuals, and I get to listen to them quite a bit. And I'm going to say that I've heard some things. I'm like, whoa, uh, I need to think about that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Morals. Morals are based on the right decision and choices of action. When we are faced or come to a crossroads to consider what our actions are, weighing out the right and wrongs, basically. That's not a truth. That reflects our character.
Oh,
So
okay,
what a truth is, yes. Yeah.
okay. So like I've heard the perspective from people around me that like truth, like morals are truth and determined by God or something. And
Okay.
it's like I wonder if with some of that we're getting mixed up with our words a little bit and we're defining things differently. And there
Right,
might be
right.
some beliefs tied into it, but like with morals, it's like how we weigh things out, well, that can change depending on the situation. And I had a
Right.
conversation with someone that was like, well, morals are fixed and they're determined by God. And I'm like, are you talking about principles? You believe your principles should be
There we
determined by
are.
God?
Yeah. So so in that part, we would be talking about our principles, right? If that's what I'm understanding here. So what we might define as a truth by our beliefs, which would be reflected by our principles, which would affect our perception and how we perceive things. And that would define, that would be defined by our own interpretation. So
If I may also, principles are more of what we try to adhere to, and morals are more of how we weigh that out.
Act two are morals. And that would also touch on our ethics, right? So in this, we have to think, who am I? Can my influence be enough? So with that, what if we stand by those principles, then maybe with that might also make the statement of who we are, what we represent, what we come with, and what we stand for, what we stand by, just in how we might agree or disagree. Now, each one of us here, for an immediate example, all goes by a different moral code and it has a different character within us. And we portray that, which is how we walk. And what I mean by that is what we do, what we say. And yes, our beliefs can be held as a truth, but is it the actual truth? Does the objective fact support that? And if it has that relation, then yeah, it is a truth, despite what our own beliefs and studies may be. Because there's a personal truth, which seems to be the whole thing of, well, my truth, which is one's personal beliefs that influence how they interact and how they respond, which in a way can still be a false character. And what I mean by that is that if we go into a situation and to a different type of culture, social circle, social surroundings, and that belief in that group, then the truth they hold is non-related to what we believe. And so therein lies a problem. And this is where people's faiths and practices can cause either one to bring something that is going to push the Tao or actually harm the influence of everything around us. Because let's go into that for a moment. Okay. As I said, the Tao is a universal energy, right? People have different words for it. And the Tao was a word that I just recently used. So in that, if we're doing something that is what we think is okay, when in fact we're doing it out of ignorance, wouldn't we then be setting out something we unintentionally meant to happen by our ignorance? The aspect of there's a sentence of ignorance yet knowledge. Okay. One's truths are what that person believes in. What if those truths are still ignorant? Wouldn't that mean we would need to gain more knowledge before we open our mouths? Because maybe what we think is a truth from our beliefs might in fact lead us the wrong direction. That might end up doing something that we don't want to happen. And so we have to go back and repair that. Well, maybe that's not so easy. Maybe we've caused more harm by those truths that were actually counterproductive to what we were hoping that would become a positive thing. So let's think about that. And that would be where we would have to reflect. Though these truths I hold to work for me, but do they work for things around me? Am I considering the greater in this? Because isn't that what the Tao is the greater also? Is it the Tao, that ripple in the water when we toss that pebble into it? The messages, the vibrations, what might influence what we do? That little voice inside. Some people call it a conscience. Some people call it the word from something greater than us. Or maybe it's something we read. Those are the truths that we know. Those are the truths we live by. But what if they're enough only to suit our own purpose? When really and truly, maybe we need to look at the purpose being, what am I wanting to leave? What am I wanting to leave behind? Did I represent that inner moral correctly? And this is what we have to reflect on. This is what we should look at, because if we ignore that, then are we really upholding those morals and that character that we hold so dear to our heart? Because if we don't, then we're not being honest with ourselves. We're not holding to that moral standard. We're only portraying a role that may be in a movie as a character. So, are we actually doing what we said we needed to do? What we came here to do? And with that, I think that this whole truth thing is underrated. And these are just my thoughts. So, in retrospect, are we actually holding up to our standards? And if they're not leading us the right way, maybe we might want to take a look at that. If they're causing problems, then maybe it's a good thing that we're hearing and reading and learning. But how is it that we interpret it? How is it that we might be interpreting our own character and our own standards? You know, I put that question out there. What is it that you really stand for? What is it that you really are trying to accomplish morally with yourself? So, with that being said, but and there were some good points brought up on this today. And I hope we can do that again where everybody's audio is working better and that everybody could be more on the same page here. So I don't know what this brought today, what it might have really said, but hopefully people got something from it. Maybe amongst the audio problems, maybe there was something heard. So anyway, I'm going to leave everybody with a thought. Are we truly who we think we are? Are we truly what we need to be? What we're striving to be? And what are we hoping to become? So, with that, I'm going to leave everybody with that thought today. Everybody take care. Be good to yourselves. Love one another. All right. Cal Griffin out. Thank you.